Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the critically acclaimed Pop the Trunk podcast, now Patreon sponsored Hall of Fame. Recency Bias Radio with me as your humble host, Dave Smith, Pretty Boy Smitty, Protocol Paul, Pearl Game Ultra, Smith Dog Trill, The Rant God, Hotep Thanos, Metro Kaiba, all of the above on that ISET test and ACT. You know what it is. Here to bring you all my 14th rant of Big Brother 22 All-Stars, entitled Call from the Wall, ladies and gentlemen. And make no mistake about it, it took a call from the wall from a true superfan to take control back from the White Walkers, ladies and gentlemen. If this is Game of Thrones, we can get it cracking now in King's Landing. Because now the game seems to be, I want to say, equalized to a degree, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in this rant, I will be doing a live feeds update. This might get up there to 2 hours long because of all the notes I had to take. Understand, I would have loved to take some notes from last night as well, but feeds cut down for the rest of the night for the most part. So during this rant, I will be discussing Sunday night all the way up to basically Tuesday afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So that's going to be more than enough to set you all up for tomorrow's eviction episode, ladies and gentlemen. But let me not bury the lead here, because majority of fans everywhere, worldwide, we were becoming jaded by this season. We were becoming ticked off by this season. It's bad enough they got rid of Janelle. It's bad enough Tyler did it based off of a lie that was created from Dani week 1. On feeds, we not only find out that Dani tried to do an alliance with Janelle and Kaser that incorporated several other members who ended up being part of not only Slick Six but the committee. We also find out that Kaser and Janelle denied that deal. Now, whether they denied it simply because they didn't want to work with Nicole and they knew Dani would most likely come with Nicole, I don't know. But what we do know for sure is they denied the deal, so Dani decided to double-cross them and then plant seeds of paranoia in Tyler and Cody's minds and tell both of them that Kaser named both of them specifically as working together, when in all reality, Dani was the first one who mentioned Cody and Tyler together to Kaser and Janelle. So now we have tons of new information, tons of information that not only vindicates Janelle and Kaser, it completely vindicates Kaser. Because this week and last week, Kaser has been bashed left and right. Bay and Day are bashing him just to show to these white people they're willing to get down with their demonstration. So they're being super hard on Kaser to a degree. Other players, it seems like they're just scared to be around him because Kaser's game brain thinks very fast. He asks a lot of questions. He likes to talk game a lot. And for whatever reason, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a person of color on this season, if you're black or brown, people don't want to discuss game with you, unless they want to manipulate you with the talk that really isn't really the truth, and then they'll talk to you. And that's really the majority of things that are happening right now. Now, you will be shocked to know, ladies and gentlemen, that a lot of people, based off of this call from the wall incident, have completely taken advantage of this. They have started to see their win conditions. They have started to realize their pivoting prowess. A guy like Ian Gamebot Terry, a guy who I lost complete faith in because he was ratting on Janelle to Nicole a week ago. Now this guy seems to be the only guy that's consoling Kaser on his final day. It's like, what is going on? This is why we love this game, y'all. Because at a moment's notice, things could flip. That was the game we fell in love with, ladies and gentlemen. But unfortunately, Robin Cass and Allison Grodner, they keep casting these seasons based off of the men they're attracted to and based off of the women they think will start fights. They're not really picking this cast based off of, okay, I want to limit one player having tons of connections. See, if they would have picked this entire cast based off the idea that you want to make sure no one has any power on day one, everyone's kind of in the dark. If you would have had one person from each season, because, I mean, let's be real here. Season 1 doesn't really count, but seasons 2 to 22, I get you don't want anyone from 15. You shouldn't have anyone from 21. So in reality, all you had to do was have a player that represented season 2 all the way up to season 20, leave out 15 and 21, and isn't that virtually Yeah, that's still almost like 18 players right there. So all you got to do is make two the alternate, and there you go. The problem is the majority of people that played the last era, they moved on in their life, okay? And they don't want to deal with this no more. All the new era people, they want to come back for redemption because they want clout, ladies and gentlemen. And Tyler, of all people, also has impressed with this wall yelling incident, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let's get into these notes and let me explain to y'all why you should be excited again for All-Stars. Now, on Sunday's feeds, this is when essentially the wall yelling happened. Tyler started to essentially make Dani into a target. And see, that's another thing, ladies and gentlemen. Dani thinks she will not reap what she sows. She thinks all of this anti-black base strategy, all this catty gameplay, all this karma she is creating for herself, she thinks the black girl magic won't create a voodoo curse on her dumb ass. Oh, it's coming for you. But ladies and gentlemen, let's continue. Now, around 4:35 p.m. on feeds, on Sunday, of course, Christmas, Memphis, and Case are on the couch outside while Ian, Cody, and Tyler are playing pool. When all of a sudden, a wall yeller with a megaphone shouts, "Nicole and Cody are playing everyone! Nicole and Cody are playing everyone!" This is very important for me to mention because this will be what leads to Cody losing his grip on the game completely. Ian finally starting to play the game by betraying Nicole, and Tyler convincing the men to get out Dani. So we have a lot of moving pieces here. It's like a game of musical chairs. It truly is the beginning of the Infinity War, ladies and gentlemen. Several players are admitting that this week is the transition week from the early game to the mid game. Now, this one wall yeller did more in 10 seconds than all the players on the bottom have combined since week one. And for that reason, Miss Wall Yeller, I've been trying to ask you what your Cash App is, coach, so I can bless you with a thank you, with some gratitude, but you won't tell me your Cash App. All right? And if any of y'all would like to show her your gratitude, just go on Twitter. Someone will tell you her name or whatever like that. But I think as a community, we should prop someone like this up. And see, my problem is you got all these jackasses out here, right? The same people, that are all of a sudden mad now talking about,
oh, how dare you all be happy about a wall yeller? That's cheating. It messes with the integrity of the game. I'm too much of a fan to do that.
Now they're trying to play this moral compass card, right? And it's like, hold up. First of all, you're only mad because you're rooting for an alliance that had a pre-game strategy guide provided for them by police. That's not cheating, huh? That's not cheating. But a wall yeller is cheating. When, since the beginning of time, we've had airplanes with banners, we've had people try to drop care packages in the backyard, we've had people yelling since BB5. I mean, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what these people are pissed off about. I think they're just butthurt that they were enjoying this boring season. Some people have weird tastes. That's just what it is. Some people enjoyed this shit. But my problem is, how can you talk about integrity when these same people, whenever some racist shit pops off, you never see them talk about integrity? So you can't even speak on integrity if you don't have none in real life, bitch. Exposed. But I had to address these fools because I'm seeing a lot of people all of a sudden act like they're holier than thou just because they're against a damn megaphone. Hey, she wouldn't have to use that damn megaphone if this game wasn't so damn bad. How about this? And see, people just assume, because Janelle got to them, because your fave went home, you're this mad. No, we're legit mad because it's boring. This is supposed to be All-Stars. Why is this worse than BB18? Let's be real. This is on the trajectory to be no different than BB19. It's on that trajectory. Ian Terry even mentions that. And we'll get to that because Ian, he got woke all of a sudden. I mean, damn. But we'll get into that. But I'm proud of Ian because, boy, I was getting tired of him getting that special.
He's like a little kid.
I was getting tired of that. But, hey, if them keeping him safe leads to Ian betraying them at some point later in the game, like he betrayed Boogie and Frank the same way, it's poetic justice to me because y'all were stupid to keep him in the game. We kept saying that, right? But everyone else said,
no, it's good strategy to keep champions.
It's stupid strategy to let a champion make jury. That's stupid. It's retarded strategy. And I know people don't like the R word, but it's stupid. It's stupid. Now, Christmas clearly went from staring off into the distance to staring right at Cody as the yeller said his name the second time. She feels betrayed. You can see it in her face. I mean, if you saw the thumbnail for this video, ladies and gentlemen, Christmas is getting up because what happened was feeds got cut as soon as the wall yeller did their thing. It went down for 3 hours, but the feeds came back for a split second, like 8 seconds after they got cut. And that's where I caught that picture of Christmas standing up with her water bottle, and she had like something on a plate. Kaser is low-key with a smirk on his face. He's like, oh, shit is hitting the fan. I told y'all. And then you see Memphis, who has the injured back from the POV competition, which you all will witness later tonight. Memphis, he's getting up, and he even has a smirk on his face. So it's clear to me everyone who wasn't too close to Cody and Nicole are loving this shit. They might not admit that they heard it yet, but all of them heard it, okay? And I can guarantee you all for a fact that Ian and Tyler have confirmed they've heard it already. Christmas definitely heard it, but Christmas right now, she's got to play her cards right because right now she's the pawn up next to Kaser. She's got to just be the buffer that keeps Kaser from staying for now. But I expect her to finally mention what she heard after she survives Thursday. But yeah, so at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you could tell Christmas feels betrayed a little bit by Cody because she literally went from staring off into the distance to hearing Nicole and Cody are playing everyone to all of a sudden staring right at the pool table where Cody was, and then you saw her eyebrows start to prep up. Like she was like getting angry. And see, that's the thing, Cody. You got tons of people at your neck now because you decided you needed a strategy guide for this game. It's sad, bro, because at the end of the day, you were set up so well without that strategy guide. In fact, you didn't even need Derek, bro. What's the point of... How you gonna prove you never needed Derek if you needed Derek to get the pregame deal to be successful this season? Derek will just get credit for the 2 seasons you did well in. Is Cody not thinking? Is he not thinking? Does he not realize Derek will get all the credit? Derek is already getting all the blame for why the season's trash. But is he not realizing Derek will also get the credit if Cody wins? Cody, if you win this season, no one will think you earned it. People will assume it was handed to you. Because production does a lot of slick shit to benefit only you and Nicole. Did y'all know after the feeds went down, they were down for 3.5 hours, like I said, did you all know that production exclusively only gave Cody 2 beers because of how stressed out he was from that Megaphone incident? They gave him beers to calm him down. Enzo is going to the DR begging for a 6-pack as the HOH. They won't give it to him because he drinks that too fast. But Cody gets 2 beers? Ain't Cody like a model? Cody ain't really into alcohol all like that. He's a real healthy dude, really. For the most part, all he does is make guacamole and chill out. But that shows you how stressed he was. See, I'm providing this context to show y'all how hard production goes for Cody. Oh, Cody, man, calm down. We gonna cut feeds off. We gonna hope this dies down a little bit. Hey, man, take 2 of these Miller Lights, Cody. You'll be all right, bro. And I'd argue those beers may have hurt Cody's relationship with Ian, and I'll get into that because Cody made 2 huge errors with Ian Terry that I think pushed Ian down the route of snitching on Nicole and Cody to Kevin. I think 100% Cody ruined his game even further after the Megaphone incident. Instead of playing it cool and being this social savvy dude, he has these passive-aggressive jokes he likes to play, and it can be condescending to the wrong person if they ain't around you all the time. I'd argue Dani is rubbing off on Cody because he says a lot of stuff. If it comes out of Dani's mouth, that's catty. When it comes out of Cody's mouth, he thinks you're just supposed to laugh at it. But in reality, it's the same wheelhouse of jokes. So I just want to paint the picture here. You know, Cody thought he had this all figured out. He thought he had this all rigged for him. Someone with a megaphone, some angel, some guardian angel of Allstars, shows up with a megaphone, and she just blows all that shit up in 2 sentences. And then Cody, he needs 2 beers to feel good about himself. It's astonishing, ladies and gentlemen. But, okay, not only that, the conversation Tyler, Cody, and Ian were having at the pool table went silent soon as the shouting started from the wall yeller. So that means Cody has to know Tyler and Ian knows what was said. You can tell Kaser heard it because he had a smirk on his face after it happened, and you could tell Memphis heard it because he had a small smile as well. This is beautiful because feeds got good because of this. This wasn't the only thing great about this, though, because now all these Cody and Nicole fans are butthurt all over the internet, crying about it not being fair to the game for their games to be ruined due to a wall yeller. Well, pot meet kettle, because it was never fair that Nicole and Cody had a damn strategy guide disguised as a pregame alliance provided for them by Derek either. For people to think that's acceptable, but a wall yeller isn't, just further shows how low the IQ level is of some fans. They're okay with the game being rigged from the start, but heaven forbid someone does something to split the game down the middle and make it more of a good game, more entertaining feeds. Heaven forbid that. We're only paying money for CBS All Access. It's like these people just want us to fall asleep on this season. Like, do you want this show to be canceled? That's what will happen if it keeps going down this route. That wall yeller may have saved CBS, and well, not CBS. She may have saved Big Brother forever with that one move. Because there are tons of publications right now coming out with articles talking about how this season is doomed to fail. And it's because they didn't realize their cash cow was Janelle. And I just rhymed on accident, coach. I mean, it is what it is. When you got it, you got it. Now, feeds got cut for 3.5 hours because of this, so we don't know what happened right after it. I expect CBS to not air this moment because they don't want to incentivize more wall yellers. But they would be stupid not to show this because it's the only explanation to why the game is flipped so fast. Without the context of the wall yeller, the edit won't make sense without a flashback. So I expect them to sweep this under the rug and use Dani planting seeds of paranoia in prior weeks to explain it to the casuals. Okay? Now, Enzo talks to Nicole in the storage room just to tell her Christmas is going up tomorrow. And of course, Rat Queen Cole approves of this because Ian stays safe. But little does she know Ian will flip right after this veto ceremony. Enzo is pissed because Kaser keeps chasing him around to talk game, but he's tired of his HOH duties. Enzo would rather just get some liquor from production and kick it instead. And as this is happening, Cody is talking to Dani in the room. Dani is right to believe Da'Vonne is only fixated on David because she's worried David will win a comp and may come after her. That's true. Da'Vonne has been very fake towards David ever since he performed well in this POV comp. Let's keep it a bean. Both of them mention how they would like to work with Kevin, but any deal that includes him without Da'Vonne will stir up drama. So, do you get that, ladies and gentlemen? They're essentially mad at Da'Vonne because she has Kevin as a loyal number, and they thought they snowed Kevin into believing he was in a pregame deal with them. But Kevin has already called on to Cody and Nicole's game. They're the core two. They get all these side alliances, and then they make everyone feel like they're included, and then no one wants to fuck up or cause waves because they don't want to be excluded from what they think they're included in, when in our reality, no one's included in anything. Okay? And see, Kevin was on to this way before he spoke to Ian. It's important for me to mention that. Kevin was trying to get Da'Vonne to see the truth last week. You feel what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? So it's important for me to give Kevin the credit where it's due. And honestly, Kevin was very close to being on my top 5. Because after he won that veto, everything he did after that, for the most part, was pretty good. The only thing I'm worried about with Kevin is he'll go up to Dani and maybe might spill some tea regarding someone wanting her out. If he does that, it could screw over Bay and Day's game next week. But at the end of the day, Bay and Day could be screwed next week anyway. We'll get into that, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. Now, so like I said, so now it appears Dani believes they aren't working together again. I'm talking about David and Da'Vonne. Both of them mention how they would like to work with Kevin. But any deal that includes him without Da'Vonne will stir up drama. This explains why Cody wants Da'Vonne gone so badly. He wants Bailey and Kevin to be his side numbers. That can't happen with Da'Vonne in the game. And it's clear he trusts Dani a lot simply because Nicole does. They believe Da'Vonne has too much influence over Kevin to the point where they think he will always vote with her. Well, Cody, you're always voting with Nicole. You know, it's funny. He really thinks he can just deny being linked to her. But if there's 2 black people, him and Dani feel like it isn't inherently racist to just link them 2 together, even though they take it personal if you just link them, as in Nicole and Cody, together. So they're not practicing what they preach here, right? It's a double standard. I mean, it's a double standard to the point where if you even mention BB18 at all, Nicole, she acts like a mess, and she acts like you're being insensitive because she's moved on with her life, and she's no longer that thought that did hand jobs every night. Now all of a sudden she's trying to change her narrative, right? And see, that's the thing, Nicole. You cannot portray yourself to be this feminist who has turned the corner and is no longer this girl who's willing to do sexual favors to get over in the game. I mean, what's any difference between Nicole and Allison? At least Allison was a competitor. At least Allison wasn't scared back in the day in BB4, right? But when you look at someone like but when you look at someone like Nicole, I'm not really seeing the competitive fire in her. I just see a beta female who's scared of conflict, who wants to talk shit, who don't appreciate it when you match her energy. That's all I see left and right. And see, my problem is we can't discuss BB18 because you too soft for that. But she'll slick bring up BB20 and Swaley or Swaggy all the time. All the time. And Bailey is even talking to Davon about this. It's like, bro, they're playing so dirty. And understand, ladies and gentlemen, these white women got to play dirty because they fear these black women. They fear them. See, at the end of the day, do I got to explain to y'all the difference between a heel and a baby face? A baby face is someone who never has to resort to dirty tactics because they know the path they are on is righteous. That's Bailey and Davon. They know they ain't doing nothing wrong in this situation, so they refuse to let these two white women bait them into the mud. Meanwhile, you got two girls in Nicole and Dani. Dani ain't played in 8 years? Well, I guess 9 years now. Nicole, she hasn't played in a few years. Nicole is universally disliked. Dani used to be liked, but Dani picked the wrong friend because now she's disliked. So these women are trying to own their villainous side, but they're not owning it enough around these sisters, right? They'll do slick stuff. Like, for instance, Dani will shit on Davon for being religious, but then she'll sleep on her stomach on her have-not bed, and she'll try to bring up Bible scripture to Davon and try to play her. Like, all of a sudden, this chick is an expert on the Bible. We know who your father is. Your father, look, if your father is the devil, what makes you think we're going to listen to your sermon? Does she not realize it's condescending to even attempt to do this to try to create some common ground between her and Day? You're trying too hard. And you're trying too hard because deep down you don't get along with black people outside the game. That's the truth. You don't want to admit it, but I have just did. Now, so like I said, they believe Davon has too much influence over Kevin. Cody mentions how Bailey has no chance but to latch on to Enzo once Davon is gone. So she is less threatening than Davon, who has lots of other options. But Cody also thinks David will follow Davon just like Kevin did. So this tells me Cody thinks Day is the glue holding the black people together as a core four. Then Dani interjects by saying Bailey is more threatening long term because she thinks David would work with Bailey before Davon. Make no mistake about it here, Dani's read is right, Cody's isn't. Bailey is the apex predator threat between her and Davon. It's just not close. Davon doesn't have a chance in hell to win this game because she has pissed off too many men already, and the white women already hated her before the season started. I mean, she can go out of her way every week to tell everybody, I'm never coming for Nicole, and Cody still hates Davon. When Cody's rattled right now because him and Nicole got exposed. It makes no sense. And see, if you don't want us to assume your strategy is racist, then do something different. But let's continue. Ah, man. And if the jury appears to be on the trajectory of being made up more men than women, Davon can't get the votes to win even if she is at the end. But if Bailey manages to stay loyal to the men and somehow they target each other over her and jury, Bailey could fuck around and win this game. That's the thing. Bailey is the only black player besides Kevin I think with a chance to win this thing. Especially since Dani is being targeted before Bay and Day. And see, that's the thing. It's a game of limbo right now. Heading into next week, depending on who wins HOH, Dani is getting targeted or Bay and Day are getting targeted. It's really come down to that. A woman is going home next week. We just don't know who right now. Feeds transition to Davon talking about Nicole with Christmas. She explains their history and then segues to discussing Dani. Both women agree Dani is scary. Both women agree with Dani it's scary how close she is with everyone. Davon tries to pitch Christmas that she should work with her and Bailey. This is smart for Davon to do, even if Christmas wants Bailey out before jury, because Christmas is getting closer to Enzo, so they must get close to her to show Enzo they are down for the cause. Cody understands they may have played themselves into a corner by pushing that do what the HOH wants narrative week to week, because if Bailey wins the next HOH, she will expect them to keep that same energy with her. So you notice how Cody is all of a sudden worried to do what the black folks want. It was all fun and games when black folks were the pawn every fucking week. Hey, just do what the HOH wants. But now they're already plotting if Bayley wins HOH, we need to figure out how to screw her over. But this isn't an anti-black bait strategy to some of y'all. Man, come on, man. This ain't about race baiting. This is about just being the truth seeker in you. This is the truth seeker in you. Just admit what you're seeing on the screen, man. You got a guy in Cody here who finds a way to defend white women at every turn, even if Dani is hurting his game in the process. But then if Bayley and Davon do everything to cover up for Cody in person to everyone, they're still the target's number one. It really is astonishing to me. It really is astonishing to me. Like, I'm a huge fan of Paulie's gameplay on the challenge, but his brother is nowhere near as good as him. I'm sorry, bro. Paulie, man, no disrespect to you or your family. I'm not trying to imply your family is in any way, shape, or form racist because I've seen you play. But at the end of the day, Paulie, I think you deserve to be on this season over your brother. That's just my thought process. I think Paulie, hey, look, Paulie might be more of a firecracker than his brother Cody. He is the older brother. But at the end of the day, I think Paulie is smart enough to realize the value in Davon and Bayley because he would have to play the challenge with one of them maybe in the future, right? Whereas with Cody, this is the last time he really got to be in the same room with these women. So he could give a fuck about how he does them dirty. Meanwhile, that's going to blow back on his brother. You see what I'm saying? So you could tell Cody's game right now is not smart. It's not smart. All around it ain't smart, okay? Now, so if they don't do what Bayley wants, the jig is up and everyone is exposed within Slick 6. Dani thinks they could convince Bayley to take out Memphis before Nicole if it comes to that, but I don't know about that. Shout out to Sandra Diaz-Twine. Also, it seems Cody may have lost his shit after the Wall Yeller exposed his game because production gave him 2 beers the same day. Now, why would they reward a non-HOH with alcohol after feeds went down? Now, if you're a feedster, you know for certain they only give them alcohol when they want more entertainment on feeds. If feeds are down, they have no incentive to give you alcohol, especially in the middle of the day. They did that because Cody was heated, yo. I think that man ran to the diary room and cried up. I think he cried a river. I think he threw a stink. I don't know what else he may have done, but for them to give this boy 2 beers like that and be like, hey, man, chill out, man. You know, take a load off. It's like, bro, are y'all bipartisan? Or are y'all taking a side here, production? Because Cody should have to hold his own nuts. Everything was all cool when he was controlling the game because of some shit Derek cooked up. Now, all of a sudden, when all of that stuff falls and you expect an all-star to be able to pivot, all of a sudden Cody is like, woe is me, all depressed. Like, come on, man. I ain't trying to see that, dog. We know what it is. Production wanted Cody to calm down and not ruin his game more, so they gave him the beers. Keep in mind, Enzo wanted liquor, but he wasn't given beers. So this further shows how hard they go in the paint for Cody, showing who production is rooting for to win this season. Dani then discusses have-not plans for Thursday. Dani says she feels bad for Memphis's injury, so she's too scared to pick him to be a have-not next week. Turns out, if the committee wins HOH, Bay and Day are both going up. Okay, so basically, everyone from the committee besides Tyler, I think, is putting up Bay and Day. That's how it's shaken up. And it's ironic because Tyler is proving to actually want to be an ally of black people within the game, because even after David betrayed him, he still realizes he needs Bay and Day to do anything. So he's not allowing that mistake from David to make him charge every black person in the game. That's very important for me to mention, because I'm usually very hard on Lifeguard Jesus. So I also have to give him credit where it is due. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all know me. When it is time to give someone credit for strategic gameplay, I always do so. But if I notice they're helped by production, then I'm going to call that out, and I'm going to tell you it's not that impressive. This is impressive. All right, make no mistake about it. So turns out, like I said, if the committee win HOH, besides Tyler, Bay and Day are both going up. So up until this point, Dani was in the clear and not being targeted heavily. But I think if Memphis wins HOH, he'll probably put up David and one of the girls, not both of them. Meaning if Cody, Memphis, Tyler, Christmas, Nicole, or Dani wins HOH on Thursday, Bay and Day should be fucked. But like I said, Tyler should be okay. I mean, Tyler shouldn't do it. But later on feeds, we will find out that Tyler has gone rogue, and he is no longer loyal to the committee. He is loyal to Christmas and Cody. But he doesn't really rock with the other 4 within the committee. So maybe Tyler hopes to gain black support by turning on 2 out of the 3 of the committee. It's not going to work, but this is a step in the right direction. Cody and Dani flirt for another few minutes until Ian and Tyler come into the room. It's clear to me Cody fucked up by being in that room so long along with Dani, especially after the Megaphone incident. I think him doing this on the same day the Wall Yeller exposed his game to almost half the house did nothing but make Tyler and Ian more paranoid about him. And if both were outside playing pool with Cody when it happened, they heard what Cody heard, but they must have played it off like they heard nothing because Cody isn't visibly suspicious of them at all. I can tell Tyler truly despises Dani because he spent the majority of his time in this room talking to only Ian and Cody. During this conversation, you could tell Cody is thinking too much about his game because when Ian is talking, Cody can't even keep up with the conversation. Ian then mentions expensive underwear he likes to buy, and Cody gets an attitude with him by saying, "Why are you telling me that?" Then Ian tells him he's only mentioning it because they both wear Mac Weldons. My fault, ladies and gentlemen. Dani is clearly noticing how Cody is off his game because even she is explaining what Ian is saying to him, trying to diffuse the situation. I'm mentioning this to provide context as to why Ian will eventually flip on him. Cody changed towards Ian after the Wall Yeller said what they said. Ian didn't change towards Cody first. Ian even said Cody is being judgmental here. Ian wouldn't say that unless he clearly got a bad vibe off Cody, who just made an alliance with Ian last week with Tyler as HOH. So to my knowledge, only Enzo knows about the Prime 4 outside of the Prime 4. So this is more proof why Tyler should be looking to flip here, and it's proof that Cody made it worse for himself after the Wall Yelling went down, so people can't just blame the Wall Yeller here for his game imploding. Cody made his own mistakes. I must drive that point home, because everyone is just trying to make it seem like, if it wasn't for the Wall Yeller, at the end of the day, there's been tons of situations like this in the past, and there have been some players who have been so good that they could still keep things in check despite that. We've seen it before. So the fact that people are already using this defeatist mentality of Cody cannot make it back from this deficit, it just further shows that Cody never deserved to be front running in this game to begin with if he's incapable of getting all of these connections. Because let's be real here, the majority of people in this game all belong to a side alliance of Cody's. If Cody cannot defuse this, he's an idiot. Well, not an idiot. He's overrated as a player. That's what I mean to say. All right. Not only that, for Cody to be so nice to Ian at the pool table, only to then be condescending towards him after speaking to Dani, should tell Ian he is on the bottom of Prime 4. So naturally, if Dani is higher up than him on the totem pole, it makes sense for Ian to find other lanes to pivot in. To be real, Tyler and Ian are in similar positions. So the symbolism between both rebelling against Cody's titty milk at the same time, I must admit, is refreshing. And if production gave Cody 2 beers to try to settle him down, they may have set Cody up to be just buzzed enough to be tone deaf enough to ruin his side alliances. The poetic justice surrounding this is undeniable. Oh yeah, we bringing it today, coach. Y'all getting that realness, okay? A lot of people don't want to talk about this 360-degree view, but now I will, okay? And I'm doing my best to make sure everyone stays up to date. Not just black folks, not just white folks, not just Latinos, not just Asian folks, everyone. This video is meant to keep everyone up to date with what's truly going on, okay? Now, Bailey and Davon meet upstairs to discuss what's going on. Black Girl Magic are bummed that Enzo won't go for Dani and backdoor her, but Kaser gave them the impression David is going up. They mention how Dani keeps bringing their names up. Davon even mentions how Christmas has thrown Dani under the bus as well. So Davon is optimistic her and Christmas may have began to scratch the surface on a working relationship here. But little do they know, Christmas will throw both of them up in a heartbeat next week if she wins HOH. So even though I acknowledged previously that Davon getting closer to Christmas is smart to appease Enzo, it also could lead to Davon blowing up more if Christmas turns on her next week on Friday. While both sisters discuss that, Christmas is prepping Enzo to Davon's gameplay. She tells him Davon will suggest for Dani to go up. They both agree Day is desperate because she's in a bad spot but can't win anything to get herself out of it. They both are mad about Nicole and Davon refusing to target each other. Christmas then tries to push for Bailey to go before Davon with Enzo because of the emotional side of her as a jury voter. And see, this is my problem. Everyone is judging Bailey off of what she did in BB20, but all these white women get to completely hit the restart button. It's almost like they hit the refresh button on a web browser. They didn't clear their browsing history, coach. But when it comes to Bailey, you see all the porn she's been watching since 2006. It doesn't make any sense, coach. It's disrespectful, dog. It's disrespectful. We playing a brand new season, brand new players. Only person that played on Bailey's season was Tyler. They ain't even that close. Bailey is still being pigeonholed into being the same archetype she was in that season when Bayley's game is leaps and bounds and night and day different than what she was in BB20. And see, the more people try to compare her to the person she was in BB20, the more racist they are because she is nowhere near that player. You are projecting those things onto her because you're nervous her social game is so good. And see, that's what drives me mad. When it's time to make a target out of a black person who is playing too well, everyone goes mob mentality and they rely on stereotypes to paint the target. They don't rely on actual truth. Now, I get it. Well, sometimes people use stereotypes on other races of people too, Dave. Other creeds of people too, Dave. I don't see you speaking that much about that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we ain't had All-Stars in damn near 20 years. So this is different. All of these people should have known each other before the game, to a degree. And understand, you got Cody out here crying, talking about,
if Josh and KC were here, I'd be in such a better spot. Because there would be 2 more returning winners.
So he's still thinking about how him and Nicole could make the end if Josh and KC were there. Not knowing if Josh and KC were there, Tyler would probably be less up your ass. He'd probably be pivoting with those two to work with the black folks to fuck you over, Cody. But once again, this is proof. Cody is so defeated because of one wall yeller. Now all of a sudden he's trying to act like this season was rigged against him somehow. Like, bruh, this season was catered to your skill set. Catered. Are you kidding me? Now all of a sudden, well, if Josh with KC was here, it would truly be catered. What? You need us to have a hand tied behind our back and play horse with you to win? Like, bro, what are you doing, Cody? And see, this is how I can tell he is a spoiled, entitled player in the game. Because the stuff that comes out of his mouth, it's like, wait, what? Huh? Oh my God. But anyway, so at the end of the day, like I said, they both are mad Nicole and Davon refuse to target each other. They both agree Kevin will be pissed if they target Bay and Day next, but it's what needs to be done to get Kevin fully on their side. Too bad Christmas doesn't know Enzo prefers for Dani to go. Unfortunately, Enzo can't win the next HOH, so at the end of the day, Dani only goes, I think, if Tyler, Bay, or Day wins HOH. I really think it's that simple. Well, maybe Kevin. I think if Kevin went... No, I don't think Kevin goes after Dani because he had the Twitter post saying he was close to Dani. I think Kevin... Who would Kevin go after? That's the thing. I think a Kevin HOH would be interesting. The problem is, I think he could be easily manipulated. Well, no, because he's aware now because of Ian. Yeah, that would be interesting. But let's get back into these notes though. Y'all wanna be caught up, right? Let's get you caught up, Coach. Now, Enzo finally speaks with Black Girl Magic, and he immediately snitches on Kaser. Enzo believes Kaser believes he's best friends with David now, and since Kaser keeps saying Tyler, Nicole, Cody, and Dani are running everything, Enzo is even more happy with Kaser going because he's on better terms with those 4 heading into next week. Enzo then proceeds to asking both women who they would like to throw up. Bayley mentions Dani is up to some funny shit. That's true. Enzo tells them he thinks Dani is running the whole house. Bayley mentions how she's worried about Dani working with Cody, Nicole, and Ian, which is an alliance. Ooh, Davon, you blooped them the fuck up. Oh my God. Bayley. Bayley blooped them the fuck up. And see, this is what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. Bayley is much better than she was in 20, bro. I'm seeing some self-restraint that she didn't have in 20. Now, to be fair, 20 was very emotional because her man was involved in that season. She wanted to get revenge for him. You know, I understand all of that shit, right? This season's different. Her man's back at home. This is the first time she's played a reality TV season without her man. I'd argue that's why her social game is so impeccable right now. She doesn't have any of those distractions. Her eyes have been on the prize this entire time. And that's why I take it so personally that these people keep putting her into this stereotypical box of being exactly who she was before when she wasn't that person. But this is what inferior players must do to someone who is superior in black. They must paint the target that we can't let her make jury. She don't vote based on gameplay. How do you know that the Bayley that played on the challenge wouldn't vote based off gameplay? This is a different woman. See, this is what I'm trying to explain to people. When you jump on the challenge, dog, that's the difference between going to community college and a university, bruh. The challenge is a university. What? The type of things you experience, the type of stuff that you forget you experienced that still helped you grow as a person. Bayley has been through those things. These white women ain't been through those things. That's why they so shook, man. Bayley been dealing with those just sharks over there on MTV. She come back to CBS, she see all these soft, spoiled motherfuckers like that. Bro, she ain't scared of them. But that's why they are scared of her. You know? It's like watching somebody who just came back from boot camp. They got a different calm demeanor about themselves. That's Bailey, bruh. And that's why they keep trying to bait the emotion out of her. Because then they'll say, see, I told you she's the one that won't vote for strategy because she's emotional now. Well, how many times do you have to fail to bring out the black woman stereotype before we call you a damn racist? See, that's the thing. People hate it when we jump to that conclusion, but they'll allow all this slick microaggression shit to pop off with Bailey and Davon incessantly. They want to talk about integrity with wall yelling, but then they act like this shit is gameplay. Oh, it's solid gameplay. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's the gameplay of cowards. It's the gameplay of the desperate. It's the gameplay of someone who has ran out of other options. And that's the truth. And black people can't use this type of gameplay. That's what makes the gameplay itself inherently racist. If only one race of people can utilize this one strategy, and this is why I bring up the white girl crying technique all the time, then that strategy should be abolished from the game. Because nobody should be able to do something season after season that one race of people can't. Nah. That's whack. That's whack, bruh. 100%. Like, do you remember when the NBA first started letting black people play? Do you remember how they didn't allow black people to dunk? Just to allow them white folks to have a chance? Ladies and gentlemen, that's Big Brother. But the difference is, white folks are allowed to dunk on Big Brother, and we can't. So they can be super flashy and be called good players for it. If we're super flashy, we're cocky and arrogant every time. The rules are against us to be transcendent talents that drive ratings. The system is against us to do that. The system actually incentivizes us to set our people back several years by being stereotypes of ourselves. That way the casual audience who don't like black people can laugh at us as a joke. Why do you think David's on this season? Why do you think Davon almost every week up until this past week has been a joke? I'm getting y'all to see the truth here. So when CBS Viacom try to tell us and sell us some bullshit by throwing D under the bus on MTV by saying they're pro-black, you can miss me with that shit. We want action. All them empty words don't do nothing for us. And see, that's the thing. Now that we jumping more on code as a community, they nervous, bruh. Because we showed them during BB21, we have the collective power to really make a season lame as hell. Because we stopped watching, ratings were at an all-time low, no one liked it. No one liked it. But the same people who act like they like 21, I bet you the same people who act like they like this boring-ass season before the wall yeller. So do you see the connection here? Some people just like the game no matter how good or bad it is. They just like it. But that comes from a position of privilege to ignore the racist element and just like it anyway. So anyway, I had to go on a diatribe. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but that's what y'all here for. Y'all here to hear me say the truth, you know? So anyway, Enzo then proceeds to asking both women who they would like thrown up, like I said. Bailey, of course, mentions Dani. Enzo tells them he thinks Dani is running the whole house. Bailey mentions how she's worried about Dani working with Cody, Nicole, and Ian. So Bailey already figured out the prime four without needing a strategy guide like Cody or Nicole. Okay? And I think this is why Janelle fans are really backing up Bailey 100%. Because Bailey always had Janelle's back. Bailey tried to tell people a long time ago they needed to work with Janelle. Hell, y'all might not know this. Bailey, once upon a time, tried to convince Cody to keep Dani out of their big alliance and put Janelle in it because she knew Janelle had a history of being a loyal player. And see, that's another thing. Why are all these players like Kaser and Janelle being painted with the broad stroke of they can't be trusted when their entire legacy is that they're too trusting? And then you got all these other players who are snakes in the grass, like Dani, Nicole. I'm trying to remember who else. And Christmas. Well, no, Christmas is pretty loyal, but at the end of the day, she was loyal to the Apex production pet. That don't really count. But just in Nicole and Dani's case, at the end of the day, they aren't loyal players. They aren't loyal players. You know, both of them are willing to use a man, to flirt with a man to get over. Both of them, and see, I think Dani. I think the reason why she's so fixated on targeting women now is because she got sent home by targeting men last time. So she's almost been scared straight into just being catty. With Nicole, she's won the game targeting women essentially. But she started off working with women. So she thinks now if she plays the opposite game, it'll help her win again. But she'll just be just like Dan. She won't win, you know. But anyway, Bailey leaves the HOH to scout the house for where Dani is. Bailey returns and Tyler comes in the HOH room. They rediscuss this week how when Janelle said 3 names, everyone got her out, but when David says Davon's name, all of a sudden there's no rush in targeting him. Y'all need to read between the lines, sisters. Tyler agrees that was a double standard, but he also says Kaser has to go this week and they will revisit it in another week. Davon tells them the next 2 weeks will be hectic, and after that it will be an all-out war. So the Infinity War is coming in 15 days, ladies and gentlemen. Christmas talks to Nicole. They both agree they know the pecking order, which means they both know the black women must go next. Christmas admits she will be terrified to put them up, showing all those muscles. So she's essentially showing all those muscles for nothing. Inside, she isn't as tough as she tried to be with Jess in BB19. Remember that? Just goes to show these sisters have these white hoes shook. Christmas and Nicole both think Tyler will put up Bay and Day, but I don't know about that. The only person they don't think will put up both women is Memphis because he doesn't like David. Then the feed switches back to Tyler and Black Girl Magic. They try to predict what David would do if he won HOH versus what Kaser would do. Then they agree Enzo will be pissed off if they don't send Kaser out the door. So Tyler was working hard here to make sure Kaser is sent to the Shadow Realm. Enzo returns to the HOH and Cody comes with Dani to have their Slick Six meeting. Unfortunately, Ian shows up to ruin their meeting before they can discuss the replacement nom as a group. And since Ian decided to stick around, everyone left the room. I get why Ian wanted to be there, though. He still could have been backdoored as of that time. And this is another reason why I think Ian turns on Cody and Nicole. Because Cody opened the locked HOH door and acted like it wasn't locked in Ian's face. That had to have rubbed Ian the wrong way. Ian knows how this game is played, especially since Cody was mean to him a couple hours prior. So make no mistake about it, Cody did 2 things to piss Ian off the same day his game got exposed by the Megaphone. That isn't by coincidence. Cody is proving he is no Derek by how he handles the only adversity he's had to deal with in 4 weeks in such a bad way. You feel it, dig me? Now, Ian talks to Enzo, but their talks don't really go anywhere, and since Enzo won't go through with the backdooring of Ian, the conversation isn't that important. Christmas then talks again with Enzo one more time before bed to discuss tomorrow. Christmas is worried because she doesn't know who would put up Dani, and how she's in a better place in this game than anyone. How terrifying it truly is. So Christmas even wants Dani gone, but for whatever reason she's prioritizing getting rid of Bay and Day next, simply to appease the committee when that alliance is fake as hell. But anyway, Christmas then mentions how Dani had something with Janelle week 1, but they detached week 2. Personally, I don't think Janelle and Dani ever had a thing. I just think Dani kept Janelle close because she was safe week 1 and could win week 2's HOH. This explains why Bay and Day originally thought there would be a badass women's alliance week 1. Christmas also mentions Janelle telling her about how Dani threw Christmas out to Memphis as an option for the block, and Christmas knows everything Janelle said was the truth because it checked out after being around Nicole. So if Christmas is truly spooked out by Dani, why does she want Bay and Day to go before Dani? Is it simply because she doesn't have the jingle bells to nominate Dani? Got him. Why is she less scared of pissing off 2 black women over just 1 white woman? Christmas claims she can't take that shot, but if she can't, who can? The only other woman who Christmas won out next. Well, I guess I'm saying who would do it, because at the end of the day, Christmas, people will want Christmas out next. I guess that's what I was trying to type, but it sounded a little crazy the way I read it. She isn't making any sense here. Enzo calls Dani the gardener because all she does is plant shit. Enzo and Christmas both agree they will keep their eyes on who tries to get cute and flip this vote. Then Dani walks up to the HOH room and interrupts them. She's clearly paranoid and that slop isn't helping her. Luckily for Enzo, Kaser comes up, which ruins Dani's plans of trying to impact who gets backdoored. Enzo takes the information Christmas told him about Dani mentioning her to Memphis and asks Kaser about Dani. Kaser confirms Dani tried to target Christmas during the first couple of weeks of the game. Not only that, he puts Cody on blast for trying to make Enzo into his fall guy. This is true because Kaser was never going for Enzo, technically, but Kaser doesn't know Enzo is very close to Cody, so this was all taken with a grain of salt by Enzo. After about 30 minutes of talking in circles to no avail, Kaser leaves, then Tyler comes back in. Enzo tells Tyler Bailey caught Dani trying to manipulate Christmas right after she agreed to go up as the replacement nom. Not only that, when Christmas came up to talk to Enzo, Dani followed her up there as well. Dani is out here playing psychotic like she thinks she's being backdoored. And what's crazy is, Enzo told Tyler that Christmas changed her mind about going up after speaking to Dani. I rewinded the feeds on purpose after this just to figure out if Enzo was lying to Tyler or not. Turns out, Christmas did sound scared to be Enzo's pawn. So Dani did plant that seed, and if Dani wanted David up instead of Christmas, Enzo must think Dani is plotting for Kaser to stay over David. And Christmas did, in fact, name drop David specifically, despite later in the conversation admitting Kaser would go home over David regardless. So she did talk out of both sides of her mouth here, proving Enzo was right to tell Tyler this information, because Tyler has been telling all of them about Dani for almost 2 weeks now. Facts. Meaning Enzo told Tyler the truth about Christmas and Dani, which also means Tyler gets the credit for turning everyone on Dani this week. In my opinion, Tyler deserves first place in the power rankings for that alone. No cap, coach. Enzo catches Tyler up to Kaser, confirming Dani as playing both sides. Then Tyler uses this opportunity to tell him about how Dani left the room with Day and Bay to come to the HOH room where he was with Nicole listening to music. He mentions how Dani said Day and Bay don't have any meaning. What the hell does that mean, Dani? They don't have meaning. It's like, this is getting into macroaggressions now. They don't have any meaning. What? That statement is so open-handed. It's so weird. Like, they don't have any meaning. What? That sounds so damn racist to me. Even Tyler was confused by that statement and put off a bit. Then Nicole revealed to Tyler she knows about the Slick Six. Why would Nicole do this? So not only is Cody choking today, Nicole is choking as well. And I'm assuming this happened when feeds were down after the Megaphone incident. I'm assuming, because at the end of the day, Coach, I didn't see this. Okay, so either Tyler came up with this extravagant lie because he knew Enzo wouldn't go back to the women with it, or this really did happen and all hell was about to break loose. So by Nicole doing this, she further proved to Tyler that Dani is a snake, unless Cody told Nicole that. So this was the worst possible day for Nicole to say this. Not only that, now Tyler has information he can run to Bay and Day to fully expose Dani next week. So Tyler is rightfully pissed off because Dani tried to get Tyler caught up with Nicole. And according to Tyler, Cody is trying to get everyone to wait before targeting Dani because he wants them focused on Davon. But even Tyler is less worried about Davon because Day ain't selling them out like Dani is right now. Tyler knows they can't afford to wait if she's selling out their alliance to Nicole. Let's be real, what Dani is doing is much worse than even what David did a week ago. And Tyler lost it when David did that. So imagine how Tyler has to keep this emotion in check, knowing Dani is ruining everyone's game right now, just being reckless. And see, my thing is, if she already is snitching on y'all have the reason to throw her up. Even if she does snitch on Slick Six, who cares? Get her out. But once again, Big Bad Davon needs to go first. That's Cody's little mantra. It's really bizarre. This girl can hurt everyone's games in Slick Six, and yet she still gets a seat at the table before a black woman. If Tyler had it his way, Slick Six just snips Dani and keeps it moving as a 5. And since Tyler has already done this in BB20 with Rachel, Tyler has a track record in sacrificing an alliance member to bring the other 4 closer together. This is Tyler's wheelhouse. So for that reason alone, he deserves tons of credit for pushing this agenda because it does fall in line with his own continuity. Enzo then fills Tyler in on the alliance Dani tried to create with Janelle and Kaser that they didn't want. Both men agree Bailey is coming for Dani's neck if she wins HOH next week. Too bad we never get to see that conversation between Tyler and Bailey because feeds were down for 3 hours due to the wall yeller, but hopefully it does make the edit. It's wild, but Tyler has figured out a way to save the black players and gain black fan respect without needing David to follow him around. Maybe he is an elite player. Depending on how next week shakes out, he may be. But this gonna sound crazy, but I think we might need Tyler to win the next HOH. Either him or Ian or Bay and Day. I don't know. Those are the only four I'm rooting for, but I'll explain why later. Tyler is a little bit worried Bailey could snitch to Dani, but Enzo tells him Bay don't rock with Dani like that. This makes Tyler feel at ease. Both mention how much Dani hates on Bailey and Davon, but by doing that, she low-key is throwing shade at Enzo's game too. I've mentioned in previous rants how Dani will just go up to all these people and say, "Why are Bailey and Davon so comfortable?" Like, it's like the idea of black people enjoying the game they are playing is so repulsive to Dani, right? She's just like her dad. But anyway, let's continue. So now Tyler knows that Dani was responsible all along for him being linked to Cody. And if Tyler heard Cody is playing everyone with Nicole, he knows Dani has to go to force Cody into choosing the men over Nicole. They agree Christmas needs to go after Bailey and Davon, so Bay will be grateful when they do save her. I don't know about that either. Bailey has already talked to Davon about how if they come for both of them and she stays, she won't forget what they did. She won't forget it. So they think they will help her become okay with that. I think Bailey will play the game and act like she's all down for them after Day is eliminated. But I think deep down, Bailey, she's coming for that neck. And see, that's the thing. The women want Bailey out first. So it really depends on who wins the next HOH, whether Bay... Well, actually, it don't really matter, because even if a woman wins HOH, that's one less woman who could vote Bailey out over Davon. So actually, if a woman wins HOH, it's more likely Davon goes. I think if a man wins HOH, it might be more likely Bailey goes. It's interesting when you look at it that way. But yeah, so so at the end of the day, they agree Christmas needs to go after Black Girl Magic, so Bailey will be grateful when they save her. And since all these women want Bailey gone before Day, they are almost telling the men who is smarter to keep here. And this also shows Tyler and Enzo don't care about Bailey throwing those goggles during the POV comp, which you all will see later tonight. I can't wait to see if her throwing them goggles were blown out of proportion or not. People say she almost hit Davon. People say she almost hit Tyler. I want to see what happened. In fact, I think they liked the passion Bailey showed when she threw those goggles because it scared the white women even more. In their mind, she's the perfect girl to keep around because she can be the one who takes out the women they don't want to take out to get the blood. There is a bad side about all of this happening today, though, because I'm worried Cody would do everything he can to win the next HOH now just to keep Dani and Nicole safe. But does Cody have it in him to target Davon himself? In theory, him doing that would blow up Slick 6. I mean, and if their argument is we can't get rid of Dani too soon because she'll blow up the alliance, I'm pretty sure Davon could blow it up just the same. Cody can't really afford to target anyone but floaters because he has overplayed his hand. I can see Cody throwing up Kevin and David then, trying to keep noms the same. Or he could try to backdoor someone. He can't really afford to send anyone else home besides those two. And later on in this rant, I'm going to give a theory as to I think Cody is trying to frame Davon and Bailey for something that they're never going to do. That way he has incentive next week if he's HOH to backdoor Davon. I think that's his long con here. Now, let's get to Monday's feeds, ladies and gentlemen. Around 8 a.m., Cody talks to Enzo in the HOH room. Cody is mad Davon won't go after Nicole F, or at least this is what he wants Enzo to believe to make Enzo believe he isn't that close to Nicole. He thinks if Davon won't target Nicole, she serves no purpose in their alliance because she won't do what she's there to do. If Bailey is willing to do it, she has more value to the men than Davon. Bailey is willing to go after Dani too, so she is in a really good spot with them. Then they discuss Kaser's paranoia, how he would have had a chance to stay if he had kept his mouth shut more this week, how Ian would be sent out the door if Kaser could be trusted. Also, they mention how they've lost some trust with Tyler, how they gotta throw Tyler a bone. Enzo is willing to cut Tyler whenever they need to. Cody wants to keep Tyler close a little bit longer, but even he seems spooked out by Tyler. And I definitely think the Megaphone spooked him out about Tyler. Enzo appears to be worried that the unusual suspect committee deal behind Tyler's back not Tyler's back, Tyler's in that alliance. Technically it's behind Enzo's back. But right now, for whatever reason, they think there's some secret regarding Memphis that Tyler doesn't know about. I assumed that was the deal, but then I came to my senses and realized Tyler was working with Memphis on that deal. That's why he won the next HOH, to prove he was different from Memphis. So yeah, we don't really even have to mention that part. Enzo is also mad his relationship with David is strained because Kaser planted the seed David would go up, and Davon has been pushing for it as well. So Enzo really ain't feeling Davon because he thinks she's being disrespectful by being so demanding. So I was right to say Enzo shouldn't have won this HOH because his game got so messy despite him not backdooring Ian or Dani. Cody mentions to Enzo that Memphis told him he doesn't care who goes up next to Kaser because Kaser is going home. But how that doesn't make sense to Cody because Memphis apparently told Dani he wanted David to go up to flip the vote and keep Kaser. So now Cody believes Memphis is telling Dani stuff he won't tell him, and both men think Dani had this mastermind plan to get David thrown up and booted over Kaser to blindside Enzo and Tyler for Kaser to go after them next. So they are spooked out about Memphis because they are really spooked out about Dani. So now Cody seems like he doesn't want Dani and Memphis to both make jury because they may have a secret deal together. Both of them agree Dani can't make jury, but Cody seems to be pushing Davon as a target before Dani, which tells Enzo all he should know about Cody and Nicole. They decide to play it fake with all the women, and since none of them is winning shit, they have no reason to take them seriously. Enzo said from now on he's done with using pawns. He plans to throw up Davon if she's in the game the next time he wins HOH. Dani's days are numbered, but she doesn't know it yet. The only thing that could ruin their plans of getting rid of Dani in their minds is if Tyler or Davon flips to work with her. Cody thinks Tyler would tell Bailey, and then Bailey would tell Davon, and then Davon would blow everything up to save Dani. Tyler has already told Bailey and Bailey pushed Tyler to talk to Davon. They've had their date, that's what Davon calls it, where she talks game with people. And Davon did not run to Dani. Davon would like nothing more than for that chick to get sent to the Shadow Realm. So at the end of the day, they're already trying to plant seeds that, well, if you tell her that, she's going to do this, as if they can predict what these sisters are going to do. The sisters don't take the bait and they don't do that, and they're still trying to make it seem like they're going to do it eventually. Ladies and gentlemen, they are trying to screw them over by creating a facade of a story just to justify Cody playing an anti-black based game. That's just what it is. All right? People don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. Because from a strictly strategic standpoint, Cody's reasoning for getting rid of Davon, they make sense. But the way he figures out a way to never defend her honor in front of those white women, but he always defends those white women's honor in front of those black women, there's clearly a racial bias here. No matter how you look at it. It's one thing to protect an ally. It's a whole nother thing to be toxic, tone deaf, condescending, stereotypically biased, racially insensitive. I could go down the list here. But that's Cody. And ever since that megaphone went off, I'd argue his game has gotten more sloppy because of it. Now, Enzo mentions how Davon hasn't won shit in 4 years of reality TV. How Davon threw him under the bus to other people just because he didn't keep her safe last week despite all his work to keep her safe in the first 3 weeks. Now, let me unpack this for a second. If Davon hasn't won shit in 4 years of reality TV, why is she a bigger threat than Dani? Didn't Dani make the end? Didn't Dani prove in her last season that she would turn on an alliance of men that she's working with? Why is it that these two black women are judged based off of their last Big Brother season, and yet these two white women aren't judged at all based off what they have already shown to be? Did these white men conveniently get the Men in Black memory wipe thing, the little flashing light? Did they get that only for the white women so they could selectively forget how conniving they are as players? Things that make you say, Cody thinks Tyler is just bitter because he isn't in control of the game like he was during BB20. But the ironic part about this is Cody is the one who's bitter because he wanted Davon to go before Dani. So he's projecting his own bitterness onto Tyler, who rightfully should be threatened the most by Dani here. Cody wanted Day to go first, then for Bailey to get revenge for Day by getting out Dani, and then for Nicole to get out Bay, and for Cody to have Enzo, Tyler, and Nicole by his side without any of the blood behind getting rid of the black women. Pay attention here. I clocked your game, Cody. I clocked it. You think you're slick, but you're not. You're really not. And this is going to be messy for you. This is going to be messy for you. Because these women view you as the person who can dead a beef. You refuse to dead this beef between them and Dani. So they know you ain't deading this beef between them and Nicole. Davon has done everything in her power to dead it herself by saying she'll never go after her. That doesn't stop you ramping things up between Bailey and Nicole. So this is important to drive home because Cody is even more bitter. The wall yeller hurt his game, and it may have ruined it beyond repair. One of my patrons even told me he thinks first play on my power rankings may be bad luck because of this. They are starting to believe there's a power rankings curse, ladies and gentlemen. To all the people who aren't patrons, I suggest you become one today because, man, we have a strong group of 100. And needless to be said, we have a lot of inside jokes. And right now, the inside joke is whoever is first place on my power ranking is going to do something to choke on feeds eventually. And it's funny, my Sunday night rant, I had Cody as number one. And then, as I'm ranting, the feeds are down because the wall yeller happened. It's like, whoa. So that's just something for me to mention to y'all, give y'all a little background on that. But yeah, become a patron if you want to really enjoy stuff like this all the time. But one thing is for sure, if Cody was already losing his grip of control on the game, the wall yeller may have put the right fire underneath these players' asses to make them start playing the game. Now Cody can't stop anyone from getting out Dani because they are questioning him. And since Enzo already doesn't like Dani, Cody is getting none of the men to push back on this plan. So the wall yeller indirectly saved Davon from being a pre-jury boot, I'd argue. But nothing set in stone yet. Nothing set in stone yet. Christmas, Memphis, anyone from committee can win HOH besides Tyler, and we could all be fucked all over again. I'm just saying, as of right now on feeds, that's how it was perceived. Please keep that in mind. Now, around 9:57 a.m., Kaser is outside with Christmas singing. Davon meets up with Bailey and tells her about a conversation she had with Dani. Allegedly, Dani got mad at Davon for changing her have-not selection next week from David to Kevin. This tells me Dani wanted to choose Kevin, but Dani shouldn't even be mad about that because she still thinks David is close to Davon. So the only way this infuriates Dani is if she planned to plant seeds in David's head, banking on Day to play up her hate for him. This is important to mention because it shows Davon is finally starting to wake up to Dani's game. In the last rant, I mentioned how she still trusts Dani too much, so pointing out her own progression strategically is very important for me. So not only does Bailey feel something in her spirit about Dani, Davon also is claiming to have dreams that rub her the wrong way about Dani too. And since most game-savvy superfans know the diary room in the past has been also called Dreams or Doctor, it's safe to say Davon and Bailey both are reading between the lines based off certain things producers say to them within the diary room. And when you add the fact that Tyler and Enzo are both getting such a good edit and, both getting such a good read on Dani, it's seeming like Bay and Day at least are safe as long as Dani is in the game. But that's the thing though. Is it in their best interest to protect Dani now that they know the men want her out? Or is it in their best interest to work with the men to take her out just to weaken Nicole? It's tough, because even if they get rid of Dani, then everyone will agree Bay and Day are next. But if they don't go for Dani, then they will have no way of proving their loyalty to the team after they win a competition, and I'd argue they're screwed anyway. They really have no choice but to cut Dani, and I have no problem with that, but I'm just trying to figure out who is Bay and Day's shield after next week, even if they survive next week. I can't figure out who their shield would be. So they pretty much have to win back-to-back to gain any type of footing in the game, in my opinion. Even though I would love for Dani to get sent to the Shadow Realm before Jerry, I'm worried her leaving will lead to Day leaving right after. Then Bailey may get targeted after that, but regardless, it's still important to mention this because Bay and Day are in a much better spot now that they were before Kevin won veto. And it appears Bailey's game can recover from her throwing them goggles as well. That's always a good sign. Oh, let's take a water break, man. Oh yeah, we an hour and 6 in. Oh man. I told y'all this gonna mess around and go 2 hours, right? I'm a man of my word, man. I said the culture needs to know everything. All right? If Cody and Nicole got pregame strategy guide sponsored by police, let me give y'all a strategy guide sponsored by Recency Bias Radio. Now, around 11:40 a.m. on camera 3, Davon talks to Tyler. Tyler starts driving the anti-Dani agenda home even further with Day after he explained why he's been so distant lately. Both of them agree Dani is next to go without a doubt, and it's going to be tough to keep Slick Six a secret, so they want to convince someone on the outside of the 5 to target her. But the only person capable of winning HOH and targeting her is probably David. Kevin is too close to Dani to go after her. He mentioned her in this tweet. Memphis is under the impression he's close to Dani because of the committee, and Enzo is outgoing HOH, so the Slick Six is getting blown up one way or another unless they can throw it to David. That's a fact. Davon leaves the have-not room with Tyler to go outside. Then she eventually comes back in the house to talk to David. She explains to him how Cody told her it went down the day David cooked broccoli, how David mentioned Davon targeting the men without asking him, and how Day is confused what she did to him for him to do this to her. But to be real here, David is like someone from Men in Black who had their memories wiped. Even if he tries to make sense out of his actions, he doesn't know how to explain himself because he doesn't understand the game enough. It makes the brother look so bad. Seeing this conversation is about as awkward as seeing a sex ed teacher try to tell a virgin how to put a condom on a banana in class. It's cringy, but oddly funny at the same time. Around 12:21 p.m. on camera 3, after the veto ceremony, Cody is damage controlling here to Enzo and Tyler, trying to deflect Dani's target on Day and Bay some more. He's throwing out random scenarios about Davon possibly running to Dani. But why would Day run to Dani if Dani is mentioning Day's name to everyone? She wouldn't. Cody's not making sense. So this tells me Cody might run to Dani and convince her to lie on Davon to tell Day snitched on the plan just to get the men to want Day out before Dani. If Cody wins HOH next week, he may use this as his excuse to backdoor Day. We need to watch him very closely. Right now, Cody winning HOH on Thursday is the worst case scenario. Then Cody tries to pitch David going home before Dani as well. He even admits to snitching on Day to David about her wanting Nicole A to stay. Enzo and Tyler clearly want Christmas and Bay to be their riders heading into the late game. Cody clearly wants Nicole and Dani. That's the difference in ideologies with Team Freeze, ladies and gentlemen. Enzo says he doesn't feel bad about getting rid of Dani or Day. Tyler plans to speak to Bailey one more time to test if she told Davon anything she shouldn't have. Cody feels Davon is willing to make a move, but not on Dani, and Cody, but not Dani, and wait, hold on, let me reset that. Cody feels Davon is willing to make a move, but not Dani. So Cody, you need to get the fuck out of here with that shit. The fact that Dani sold out Slick 6 to Nicole, but Cody is still defending Dani, tells me maybe Cody was the one who told Nicole himself about Slick 6. Let's not forget, Cody was the one who told Enzo about Prime 4. So this is more projection. These black players know that they are screwed and they can't afford to do all the shit y'all can do. But y'all are saying that they're getting away with doing these things because y'all are getting away with doing these things, and y'all want to blame them for the shit y'all already did. If anyone was using their brain and realized the limitations black players have systemically built into the game, they would know it's impossible for Day and Bay to be pushing for Dani to go and trust her at the same time. It doesn't add up. Why would they run up to Enzo and ask him to backdoor Dani and then run to Dani as soon as Christmas is the pawn and say, let's work together? That doesn't make any sense for their games. But Cody thinks he's savvy enough to convince people this makes sense for their games. What? And what pisses Enzo off the most is how Ian and Nicole know about their games, but Enzo and Tyler don't know anything about theirs. I can see Enzo is growing tired of Cody's bullshit. Because even though Cody told him about Prime 4, Cody won't say anything about Prime 4 in front of Tyler. So that tells me Cody doesn't trust Tyler as long as he wants Dani out, and Enzo doesn't trust Cody as long as he wants Dani to stay. This is like a triple threat standoff between sharpshooters. Now I wonder what Enzo would do if he heard the megaphone outside. Because if he's already losing patience with Cody this much, it's possible that information could have tipped him over the damn edge. I mean, I wish everyone was outside when that shit happened now. Because Bay and Day weren't outside when that happened. Now, eventually, Kevin heard from Ian, and Kevin relayed that message eventually to Davon. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to drive the point home that if those sisters would have heard that megaphone message, do you understand how earth-shattering, earth-shaking that would have been? Well, anyway, Cody tells them unless he's the next HOH, he will go through with whatever they want to do. But only Tyler is competing for the next HOH besides Cody. So really he's saying whoever wins between them two are going to get their way. Then Cody asks if Ian would throw up Bay and Day. So clearly Cody is fishing to find someone to do this for him because he knows Davon would eat him alive if he betrayed her after she told several people she wouldn't come for Nicole. And for Cody to go after Day, the one person not targeting him or Nicole, the week after he and Nicole got exposed, would make Cody canceled by the black community because this move doesn't make sense this early. It doesn't make any sense. You know, it looks malicious that you don't want this woman to make jury. It looks like Nicole got you doing her dirty work. Like Nicole has had everyone do her dirty work up to this point. It looks like she's got you doing her dirty work. To be honest, it feels like Nicole and Cody might secretly like each other. Like romantically. Because how hard he goes for this chick is borderline self-inflicting to his own game how hard he goes for her. Like real talk, bruh. And he's already flirting too much with Dani. So I'm just saying at the end of the day, let's not act like he's incapable of flirting with a married woman. All right? Then Enzo mentions how the champions being in the best spot in the game is so stupid, and Cody fucks up by telling them he will backdoor Ian if he wins the next HOH. Uh-oh. That quote may come back to haunt Cody's game more than the call from the wall did. Pay attention. Cody, you should never tell your your alliance that you're claiming to trust the most, you should never tell them who you will in fact backdoor. Because if they see you throw that veto, they'll know what's up. They'll know what's up. Now, I'm not sure if Cody would have the heart to piss off Nicole by backdooring Ian next week. I call bullshit. I think Cody is more likely to get out David than get out an Ian. Tyler leaves the HOH, then Cody mentions he has to watch what he says around Enzo because of the Core 4. So clearly Cody is willing to only keep his word to that alliance, but what about Connect 4, Cody? So you're only willing to keep your word with the white women, even if one of them already sold out your alliance? So Dani has enough rope to risk Cody's game and still be forgiven, but the idea of Devon having black allies is something that must be addressed right now? What about Dani? She's close to Kevin just like Devon is. She tried to keep Kaser this week while pushing Christmas to push for David to be backdoored. How is Devon more of a threat than Dani here? None of this makes any sense. Unless Dani also met up with Derek and got the strategy guide too, Coach. Did I just figure it out? Was Dani on a 4-way call with Derek Levasseur getting that strategy guide? Something ain't right. This feels like strategy guide-based gameplay here. They're inseparable. They're inseparable. And the flirting is just way too comfortable. If Dani wants to talk about Bay and Day being too comfortable with Enzo's HOH, how about you being too comfortable as a damn married woman with a child flirting with a dude who has a girlfriend at home? What about that? Also, that don't matter because y'all white. But if Bay and Day, heaven forbid, their game is good enough to be happy about a white person winning something, heaven forbid, they're too comfortable. Do you see that? Boy, they're getting exposed, boy. Now, around 2:40 p.m., Ian talks to Kevin about how this week is transitioning from the early to mid-game. They agree to do an information swap where they tell each other if others mentioned their names in the past. No one has said Kevin's name to Ian, and Kevin tells him about Kaser mentioning him. Both agree they thought David would go next, but both believe he's the main person everyone is mentioning now. Kevin protects Day, Cody, and Tyler by not elaborating on what David did to piss everyone off. I think Ian is playing dumb a little bit here in front of Kevin, because in front of Nicole, he hated David a couple of days ago. So either he was playing Nicole then, or he's playing Kevin now. Around 5:37 p.m., Cody runs back to Enzo's HOH room to further defend Dani. This guy is bugging. Cody finds out from Enzo that Tyler told Devon that Dani is coming after her. Cody is going stir-crazy, and he's becoming super aggy. So Cody is using what Tyler did as an excuse to place more blame on Devon because now he thinks Day could have pressed Enzo to gain information? Like, bro, I'm giving y'all exactly what's going on. It's a lot more complicated than this. This is legitimately the Cliff Notes of how bad Cody's been playing ever since this happened. All right? A whole bunch of Cody fans are going to act like the stuff I'm saying right now isn't verbatim what's going on in Cody's head, but this is exactly the agenda Cody is pushing left and right ever since this megaphone. This is exactly the agenda he's pushing. It is so, Devon's the devil, Devon's the devil, Devon's the devil. That's all you hear from this guy. That's all you hear. You can tell this ain't working on Enzo, though, because he tells Cody to go talk that shit out with Tyler. Enzo says he took out Kaser for Team Freeze, and Cody says he'll take whoever he wants out next. So Cody has gone from saying he would backdoor Ian, no doubt, to saying he will get out who Enzo wants in a matter of hours. If this isn't telling Enzo that Cody is rattled, I don't know what else will. Cody then leaves the HOH room to get tacos from the kitchen. Around 10:20 p.m. on camera 1, Ian drops a bomb on Kevin that not only completely changed his likability among live feeders, it also was the first amount of proof that anyone understood what the Wall Yeller even said. Ian is tired of Coco's titty milk, and he's ready to rat on the Rat Queen. Even though Ian prefaced everything by saying he would never target Nicole, which is a bummer to me. That's a buzzkill, Ian. I mean, don't dip your toe in the pool. Jump in that motherfucker. That's what we want to see, nah? I'm never gonna throw her up. I get it. She's a returning winner. If you turn on her, they turn on you. I get it. But damn, man, how else you gonna get out Cody if you don't put Nicole up next to him? Like, I'm trying to figure that out. Who next to Cody sends Cody out the door? Who has enough connections Cody has to make sure Cody leaves over her? Make sure Cody leaves. I don't know who you put up next to Cody on a Thursday to make sure he goes, and you still got to get over the hump of making sure he doesn't win veto? Man, this is a lot of stuff you got to do. I think Ian could be bluffing just to get America's twist. I think this could just be a bluff, and he could just run right back to Nicole and Cody. By the way, he could flop. I'm not fully buying the bullshit. I need to see more action out of him, but I am saying he's on the right path. And Ian has made my top 5 power ranking off of several things he did over this week. So, but anyway, so yeah, so at the end of the day, he says he won't target Nicole, which is trash to me, but it appears he wants to go after Cody. This is important to mention because I have planted the seeds through great detail in describing 2 key mistakes Cody made on feeds towards Ian. Ian tells Kevin they must have each other's backs. He then proceeds to mention how he and Nicole are close, but not so close that he's playing her game. He and Kevin right now expect the target to be David. Neither of them are privy to Dani being a massive target yet. Then Ian mentions how the person who gets targeted will change depending on who wins HOH, even if David right now seems to be the consensus. But what Ian wants Kevin to realize is, if the boys win power, Bay and Day are most likely going up. Ian's read isn't completely off, but I think him assuming all the men are together, targeting the same person, isn't on target either. Now, later he will expound on this further by saying there is no such thing as a men's alliance. There's just people who think they're in a men's alliance. He'll mention how Enzo thinks he's in a brigade too, and that's basically what Team Freeze is. But then Ian says this conversation can't leave the hammock. He says the earth will explode if he says this. Ian admits he thought he was in the core, but the truth is there was only one core. It's Nicole and Cody. Thank you, Ian. Thank you. See, I was over here pushing for you to be backdoored, but you know what? If you can come back to haunt these motherfuckers, hey, I'm all for you getting special treatment in the early game. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Because you reap what you sow. I said that earlier and I say it now. In a lot of ways, Nicole and Cody are trying to pull off what Diane and Jace failed to pull off during the first BB Allstars, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith alliance. Kevin mentions how so many people are fooled thinking they are in the core, but they aren't. This is true. That's why Kevin is in a better position now than Davon, because he isn't perceived to have his own numbers. People think he is a number to be owned by someone else. This perception is really conducive to Kevin making the end again, just like he did in 11. Ian mentions how BB19 and BB12 were played just like this season. It's a core with secondary fake cores all thinking they are real. Now that the opposition is gone come Thursday, as in Kaser, the core is easier to notice. Ian then uses his opportunity to pitch to America why they should vote for him to have the next twist. He believes nobody else is smart enough or capable enough to do what needs to be done. And to a certain degree, I kind of agree with him. And the reason why I agree with him is because Bailey and Davon, they're buying the bullshit a little bit too much from Enzo, Cody, and Tyler. Bailey, I understand why she's buying it, because she's in their long-term plans. Davon, on the other hand, she recognizes the fact that Bailey's playing a good game, but she's also recognizing the fact that everything she does is wrong to these white guys. It's wrong to them, right? Tyler is disliked her ever since she tried to push for Nicole to stay. Enzo has disliked her ever since he refused to keep his word with her to keep her safe. And Cody now absolutely hates her just because he doesn't want Dani to go before her, and he's terrified of black people being on code together. So that's the situation we're at right now. The 3 members of Team Freeze want Day out, but Tyler at least is willing to hold that off until Dani goes first, because he knows Dani is the one who can split up Team Freeze. Cody don't give a fuck about Team Freeze because he's too busy trying to protect Nicole. And see, that's the problem. And deep down, Cody knows if he's in Final 2 with Nicole, Nicole's not going to get rewarded again. So that's another reason why he's doing it. Ian then says what needs to happen. They need to keep the target on David long enough to create a barrier the core can't see past to blindside them. Ian wants one of them to win HOH soon. He thinks the seeds must be planted patiently, and he would rather go out now taking a shot than to make Final 8 playing like Cody and Nicole's little bitch. Oh man, I love hearing this shit. Now, he didn't say those exact words. I'm giving y'all my version of what he said, but that's basically what he said to Kevin. He tired of being a little bitch. This man is a returning winner, okay? The gameplay he showcased at BB14 was a gameplay that clearly is conducive to surviving the first early game and then in the mid-game gaining momentum, the steamroll. So he clearly sees this is the time to start the steamrolling. So, hey, I can't be mad at Ian for just falling in line and then not give him credit when he recognizes his pivoting prowess. We must give him credit here. He thinks this, but yeah, like I said, he thinks the seed must be planted patiently. Thank you, Ian. This is what I wanted to see from you. This is the game bot Ian Terry I rocked with in 14. Then Ian mentions how Derek set Nicole and Cody up to succeed before the game and feeds cut to the kitchen, which tells me production is in on this shit. Because otherwise, why cut the one conversation everyone in the world wants to keep hearing? It makes no sense. If production is trying to convince us that they aren't rooting for Cody, maybe they shouldn't offer Cody 2 beers to drink when his game is exposed, and maybe they shouldn't be censoring the conversation Ian had with Kevin. These two actions show guilt from production. Exposed. Bay meets up with Davon to catch her up on a conversation she had with Cody. She tells Davon about how hard Cody keeps defending Dani subconsciously and how they must take her out to force Cody into working with them. I hope they are prepared to win this HOH because that conversation may have spooked Cody out more to want Day out. But wouldn't it be hilarious if Cody throws HOH to Ian assuming he would target Bay and Day only for Ian to backdoor Cody? Fingers crossed. Hey, I would love that, wouldn't I? Oh, man, I would love that. I would love that. Davon is frustrated that Cody, of all people, treats her like she's a stranger. How it's like pulling teeth to talk to him. Davon isn't aware that Cody is rattled because of the megaphone either. She also isn't aware he wants her out next, and Cody has never been as smooth as Derek under pressure. So when you add all these different things together, you can see why Davon is rightfully angry here. These people are painting Day with this broad stroke of being a 24/7 schemer, and I'd argue Kaser has this same stigma due to Islamophobia. Bailey is perceived as a comforter. You know, the same thing Bailey said she couldn't do for Kaser but seems to be super good at with these white guys? Yeah, that. But Day is perceived as being some attack dog, even with people she knows well, like Cody. This shows both women that Cody gives preferential treatment to everyone but them. He doesn't even ask them how they are feeling day by day. And I agree with Day, because she has been clearly working hard to not appear to be intimidating. She has been trying to implement some of Bailey's advice here. Her going out of her way to say she won't come for Nicole in theory should make Cody like her more and want them both in more rooms with him, but he doesn't. These are all massive red flags, but the problem is Davon isn't prepared to go for Cody or Nicole, so she will always be in a bad position, even if Dani goes home next week. They both have a good read on Dani, but a terrible read on the men within Slick Six. Davon tells Bailey her biggest fear is if Tyler is telling her Dani is coming for her, and Cody is telling Dani the same thing in reverse. Davon then shows the ability to read the situation perfectly by saying they must come after her because they think Davon is the brains of their operation. Day even tells Bailey some shit is coming, but they don't think anyone is big or bad enough to put them both up together besides Dani. I hope y'all don't throw this next HOH assuming no one's big or bad enough to put both of y'all up. Y'all better go for this. And as of yesterday, Davon said she's going for this 100%. So that's good to hear, but also it worried me when they start saying, oh, no one's big or bad enough to come for us. Don't get cocky now. That's when producers will love putting that shit in the edit just to make you look bad. We've been here before. But little do these sisters know, everyone in the committee in Slick Six besides Tyler is gunning for them. David, Kevin, and Ian probably don't target them next week, but the odds of those three winning HOH over Memphis, Cody, Dani, Christmas, or Nicole are very slim. Bay and Day then call Dani Judas because all of a sudden she starts reading the Bible just to get closer to Davon. And we all know Dani criticized Davon earlier in the season for her religious views, so clearly she was being condescending with the Bible and once again trying to bait Davon into a reaction. Ladies and gentlemen, only a racist will want a black person to be the stereotypical version of themselves. This topic made Bailey bring up how for someone who claims to hate their father so much, Dani is more like a father than she thinks. Scalding with the tea. Scalding with the tea, coach. Jeez Louise, boy. Yee. Bay and Day think Christmas would throw up Dani. This worries me because Christmas already told Enzo she won't do that. I need these two to be clutch on Thursday or this wall yelling could be all for nothing if they don't take advantage of the momentum they aren't even aware of. Day then catches Bailey up to her being back on good terms with David, and then they prepare for bed. Kevin pulls Davon to the side just before she goes to bed to make her aware of Cody and Nicole's police-sponsored pregame strategy guide on the hammock around 1:46 a.m. Davon appears to be more focused on getting Kevin to expose his source of information, though, over making a move on Thursday. Kevin thinks he and Day need the numbers badly. Kevin is worried Bailey might buy the bullshit from the men, but Day assures him she isn't. Davon asks Kevin if he's sure Tyler is with Nicole and Cody like that. Kevin says Tyler is more of an opportunist. Meaning Tyler is a number they can work with if they can take out Cody. Davon asks Kevin if they should take out Nicole next, and he says he's not sure because it might be best to sit on this information for now. And right after they mention targeting Nicole, guess who decides to come outside to do laundry? You guessed it, Mr. Calafiore, looking so rattled, so paranoid. And he came outside looking so damn suspicious of them. Even Davon mentioned how nosy Cody has been. But do not listen to Kevin here. You must take the shot sooner than later. And see, that's the thing. Kevin thinks Dani and Cody is close to him based off his tweet. Hopefully now that he's on to what's really going on, hopefully that tweet is obsolete. Damn, I just rhymed on accident. Damn. Man, these is bars. Kevin then makes the three-way call. Kevin then makes the three-way call Derek had with Cody and Coco known today and calls it the playbook. Playbook, strategy guide, same thing, semantics. So now all Day needs to do is make Bailey aware of what's going on. Oh, and by the way, Cody took forever to do those loads of laundry. Man was outside damn near 10 minutes like he tried to fold each piece of clothing to eavesdrop on these two. Then Day runs to the washer machine to simulate if Cody could hear them whispering from the hammock across the backyard, and Kevin begins to troll by talking about how he will target Day. This was a hilarious moment in my opinion. This is the type of moment it should make it on TV because it was funny. It was it's lighthearted. And at the end of the day, these are the type of moments that you'll remember just as much as all the big strategic moments. You know, the moments where the humanizing moments where the players showed some sense of humor and stuff like that. So yeah, I truly appreciate this. I thought it was the type of moment that truly encapsulates why this side of the house is much more likable. You know, they aren't tryhards with strategy guides sponsored by cops that aren't lying to America. They aren't lying to America on day one to appear pro-black, and they aren't resorting to personal shots to crack jokes. They are just playing the game the way it was originally intended to be played and dealing with adversity with class. And this is why I'm so confused why there are people more mad about Wall yelling than they are mad about a season that was premeditated to be rigged. The same people pissed about Wall yelling that claim it ruins the integrity of the game seem to not care when racist stuff goes down. You cannot talk about that if you have no integrity in real life. I need to keep driving that point home. This is literally the pot calling the kettle black. They were okay with the rigged season, but if the season becomes fair by everyone knowing about cheaters cheating, they call that cheating? Ladies and gentlemen, this tells me Nicole fans are about as rattled as Cody is in the damn house. Exposed. Kevin is concerned people will connect him to David because he picked him with house guest choice for veto. So now it makes a lot more sense why people were confused by David not making a deal with Kevin when they were the last two left in the veto competition, because Kevin chose David. So if we see Kevin on the block next to David next week, that will probably be the HOH's excuse, when in all reality, it's probably a long-term plan to backdoor Davon or Bailey in the playbook. Now, let's get to Tuesday's feeds, ladies and gentlemen. See, we're making sure y'all understand every subtle nuance that could lead to any type of wrinkle or strategy next week. Around 11:07 a.m. on camera 1, Ian is on the hammock and he tells Kevin they have to dissociate with each other because they have been spending too much time together lately. Damn, Ian! You must have got your balls back from BB14, coach! He's super blunt all of a sudden. You feel it, ding me? Like, hey man, we need to dissociate from each other. You know, he's swinging back and forth on the deck. We need to dissociate. Get the fuck out of here. And Kevin's like, okay, I'm just going to go get some coffee then. Yeah, you do that. I'm not making this up. Man. It's so funny, man. I'm not trying to make fun of Ian's like quirk or nothing, but I can't help but think of the Pokemon Porygon. Have y'all ever seen the Pokemon Porygon? It's constantly rocking back and forth. It just reminds me of that. Now, after Kevin leaves, he waves Cody to come over. He asks Cody when he went to bed last night. Cody tells him 2 a.m. Then Ian gets Cody to mention the problem with David in more detail, and Cody tells him the role Day played in it. Ian was really smart here to reinforce his loyalty to Cody, because Cody has no clue Ian has him in his crosshairs. Then Ian, in a real slick way, mentions the Megaphone incident from Sunday to see what Cody's take is on it. Cody says it is what it is, so clearly he's heard it and clearly he's frustrated. He's done a terrible job of hiding his anger all Monday. He even pushed Ian away by doing that. But this is why Ian made my top 5 power rankings. He has Cody completely buying the fact that he's loyal to Prime 4, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what you have to do with someone like Cody. You have to make him think he's in control at all times. Then Cody shows how mentally defeated he is by admitting it would be so much easier with Josh and KC here. But this tells me Cody wishes more winners were here just to be Shield, so his same cheating gameplay would have worked more. He isn't showing any remorse or regret for having the strategy guide. All he wishes is that the cast was different. You know, like everything is going your way up to this point, and now you wish the cast was different. Do you know how much Bailey and Davon wish they had a competent straight black man on this season, Cody? You do realize if there was a competent black man on this season, you'd be fucked, right, Cody? You do realize that, right? If I was on this season, let's just keep it a bean right now. I would have never made the mistakes David made. And I would have been the bridge that would have not only rebranded Tyler as someone who was an ally of black people, because I would have known how to use his own desire to be back in black people's good graces. I would have used that against him to get what I wanted out of him. I would have played this way differently. I don't want to give away my strategy, though. I'm going to shut up. I'm just going to say they picked the wrong David. The world knows it. Now, technically, I never played Big Brother, so I can't be on an All-Star season never playing Big Brother. But you get what I'm saying. They picked the wrong David for 21. It should have been me. You know, whether I dealt with the racism or not, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they picked the wrong straight black men to back up these sisters. And now they're acting like the four black people together are so powerful when Kevin is really perceived to be alone. Davon really is talking game with no one because she doesn't want to be stereotyped. Bailey is playing a first-class social game, and David doesn't know what he's doing. He's a bystander. Somehow, Davon, being the one who can link these four black people together, even though all four aren't even good at the game, makes her the bigger threat. It's stupid. Does Cody not realize this cast was picked this way because of Nicole? Does he not realize if Josh and Casey were there, Tyler and Christmas wouldn't be so gung-ho to work with Dani and Nicole? Does he not see how much production helped him with this cast? Is he really trying to change the narrative that he was set up to fail because Josh the Buffoon and Beast Mode Cowgirl got the Rona? Get the fuck out of here with these excuses, Cody. He's deflecting from the fact that he got exposed for trying to cheat the other 14 players. He's just lucky all the remaining players weren't outside to hear the shit. He should count his lucky stars his game is still salvageable at this point. The majority of the afternoon, players didn't really discuss much game after Ian spoke with Cody. It was mainly just people sunbathing and relaxing outside. I mean, we did see Nicole mention in passing about how butthurt she is that Janelle's fans may have been the one who had the megaphone and stuff like that. But outside of that, we didn't really see much of anyone discussing the megaphone incident altogether. It seems like the majority of people want to hold back on discussing that depending on who the next HOH is. They're holding that in the tuck. Around 1:47 p.m., Bailey is catching on to Cody's fakeness. How he spoke to her yesterday but then ran to Davon and then went to Tyler and Enzo. Both the women are fed up and ready to win HOH. They are tired of Nicole having a free ride just because she's close to Cody. Davon reminds Bailey she has to put in too much work to let these white women piss her off. That she has put in too much work to let these white women piss her off. Davon also says Bailey is playing one of the best social games she's ever seen. I agree with that, actually. I second that notion. When you take into account all the context, she's playing above her head right now. It's actually very impressive. And to be honest, Davon isn't wrong. If you think about it, what Bailey has managed to do so far with the odds stacked against her, because of cheaters needing a cop to give them strategy guides, Dani despising her and her husband, and with Nicole acting like the stuff from her season is off limits, but she brings up BB20 shit all the time, Bailey damn near deserves a Nobel Peace Prize just to keep her emotions in check when you add the right context to this. Especially after Dani got away with the hinky vote that was meant to screw over Bailey the most. Bailey still survived that shit. So that tells you how good she's playing, y'all. She can put out her own fire. She's so good. These white women resort to the lowest of lows just to provoke these sisters into being the angry black woman stereotype, because the truth is they are too scared to come for them like true all-stars would and should. Bay and Day been on the challenge. These women don't scare them. And because they have no fear, Dani and Nicole can't beat them without using dirty tactics. Bay and Day are baby faces. Nicole and Dani are textbook heels. A heel cannot win clean because a heel doesn't have to play by the rules. Bay and Day can't afford to be heels because the game is already racist systemically. So if they aren't careful, they'll be labeled villains anyway. And see, that's the true conundrum. That's the true problem with this game. That's why this game as a whole is flawed. We need to purge this shit. We need to change the rules to it. We need to change a lot of stuff to make this game change for the better. Problem is, there's too many traditionalists that never wanted to change. The same traditionalists that that don't root for old school players during the All-Star season, that root for only new school, but they're still traditionalists because they don't want black people to start winning shit. Peep game there. You see that? That selective traditionalism? See, I'm calling people out right now. I ain't even got to say names. They know who they are. So Nicole and Dani are villains by choice, which shows their white privilege because black people can't be villains by choice. They're hated no matter what. You see that? Bay and Day are heroines without trying. This is why Nicole and Dani despise them. This is like the movie Doctor Sleep. Oh, I'm about to get real deep with y'all. Y'all ready for this? Dani and Nicole are those weird motherfuckers known as the true knot, trying to steal the shine from the black girl by any means necessary. Uh-oh, this is 1-1. Hold up, Dave. You about to ether them, ain't you? Yes, I am. Listen. They hate the black girl, but they also wish they had that black girl's magic at the same time. Bang! Headshot. Dani and Nicole hate Swaley, but deep down they wish they were them. If Cody wasn't on this season, Nicole probably would have been the first boot. Without that pregame alliance, Nicole's game wouldn't even work. So now do you understand why these two women seem to be so fixated with getting out women? To them, being the last woman on All-Stars is worth just as much as the $500K because they have hate that's deeper than just gameplay. Think about that. Around 4:42 p.m., Dani mentions to Cody she thinks Bay and Day will out the Slick Six to whoever wins HOH next week outside of the Slick Six. How is she so sure when she's never around these women? What are you talking about? What is she talking about? 2 out of the 3 men within Slick Six trust Bay more than Dani. And she's trying to tell Cody what Dani gonna do to 2 out of the 3 of the men. Just because Dani knows that smoke coming for her neck. So she's like, men, she's not just coming for me. Please protect me. I'm a bitch. That's Dani, okay? She don't want to answer for the smoke she created for herself. Instead, she wants to create smoke screens and have these men be her knight in shining armor. You know, that's what it is. But when that lie doesn't work, then Dani tells Cody that Bailey talked to Christmas yesterday and said she has something to tell her, but she won't until Christmas wins HOH. That doesn't even sound like something Bailey would say. Even if she thinks there is a chance Christmas will go after Dani, it makes no sense for Bailey to say that on a Tuesday. So why wouldn't Dani mention that first if that story was true and the other one was conjecture? Because both stories are probably lies. This is just more paranoia seeds planted by Dani the garden snake. Because she's too chicken shit to win HOH and target them herself. I would love nothing more than to see her on the block come Friday. A black player could never tell this many lies and be protected afterwards. In fact, a black player would be clowned for being bad at the game for lying so damn much. But Dani somehow gets away with it simply because she belongs to one of the first families of Big Brother. The fact Cody still goes to bat for her just further tells everyone in Slick Six he has a final 2 with Nicole. If he really wants people to believe the megaphone was a lie, he should be willing to cut Dani for his own game. But as you can see, he seems worried Dani will blow up his game if he gives Team Freeze free reign to decapitate her. So you see what's going on here? It's like a lot of people have dirt on a lot of people that stems from before the season. And because they don't want that aired out, they're willing to take those people to jury. Even though in the jury house, those people could hurt your game more by exposing your pregame alliance, they could offend the people who weren't included in it, and they could cost you $500K. See, this is just me proving how dumb Cody is. I think he's dumb. Because the optimal play after that megaphone incident is to cut Dani. Cut your losses and move on. Because if you cut Dani, it at least makes people believe you're not protecting Nicole anymore. And then you win the next HOH and do whatever the fuck you want. That's all you gotta do. But instead, Cody wants to have his cake and eat it too. That's what it is. So the same guy telling us, oh, I wish Josh and Casey were here because the game would be on easy mode for me. That's the same guy refusing to put the game on easy mode by just cutting Dani. These aren't lies. Cody then mentions to Dani he is done with Slick Six. He says he's at the point now where he will throw up Bay and Day. So this dude went from telling the men in Team Freeze he would backdoor Ian to telling Enzo he'll get out whoever Enzo wants. Now he's telling Dani he plans on putting up Bay and Day. Now I think Cody might throw the HOH. Because he's telling 2 different sides 2 different things, and they all think they belong to the same side. Cody's going to get found out if he wins power. He's got to rely on someone else to win that. But the problem is, he's too rattled to rely on someone else to win that. He's got to win it. He's in a situation where he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, just because he's unwilling to cut Dani. I have to keep driving this point home. His willingness to go to the end of the world for a white woman who is truly conniving, but he won't even take a step across the street for a black woman is crazy, y'all. You know? But yeah, so Cody is basically going to blame Bayley indirectly for what the Megaphone did, because he's butthurt a Janelle fan could be behind it. And now if anyone gives anything and now if anyone gives anything that can hurt Bay's great social game, Cody will jump on it just to justify protecting Dani and not appearing to be racist in the edit. But Bayley has done nothing to Cody's game to hurt it, while Dani has made Cody look bad by association. But it's almost like white women can do no wrong with Cody and black women can do no right. Am I right about this, sisters? Are y'all watching these feeds? Are y'all noticing what I'm peeping game on? Black women can do no right with Cody. He claims he doesn't like David because he ruined his game. Bay and Day, they've been a closed book towards Cody. He still can't stand them. So Cody just looks for excuses to target black people. And the excuses aren't consistent with each other, because he'll claim you're not loyal enough, so he's targeting you, but then when you are loyal enough, he looks for a reason to say you're not loyal. Anybody who isn't biased watching feeds will agree with me on this. Cody reiterates to Dani that Bay, Day, and Tyler are his side alliance, but Tyler makes him nervous when he's aware he's on the bottom. Cody knows Tyler has the balls to send him to the Shadow Realm, but he doesn't know Ian also wants that smoke. So while he focuses on making the black women into people who must go, those white players he lets skate by from week to week are plotting his demise. It just goes to show how important it is for black people to win, how impossible it is for black people to win this game. It's important for them to win it too, but it's damn near mission impossible. Because even when you think you're cool with something before the game starts, they revert back to what they've seen other white people do that made them successful. They jump right back to that. And now I have to ask the question, was Amber expendable to Yall Alliance and BB16 just because she was half black? See, I got to start asking these questions, because the way y'all cut her at her knees just to protect Caleb from doing some weird stalker shit and trying to save his edit and reputation, it's almost like y'all blame the victim. Then we get to this season, Davon is clearly the victim. Those two white women are resorting to tons of microaggressions and racist rhetoric, and Cody defends them left and right. Whether you think you can beat them at the end or not, at least check them on that shit, Cody. You won't even do that. So even when your social game is Teflon, Dani creates a lie about you being sloppy socially. Even when you don't speak to people about game like Davon, Dani and Cody make her out to be scheming too much. It's one thing to make someone into a target strategically, and it's a whole nother thing when it's a witch hunt against people who all look the same, and the people doing all the hunting all look like each other too. I'm not seeing the racial sensitivity training working at all here. All I see is a bunch of people reverting back to what's comfortable, which tells me they aren't that comfy around black folks in normal life. During a time where everyone should be extra cognizant of being inclusive, we have black players who are playing well being just as excluded as David, who doesn't even get the game. If you don't see a problem with this, there's a problem with you. Then Dani mentions when Bay and Day go on the block, the house will be crazy. Then Cody says he will hide when that happens. Wow. So just like Nicole and Christmas snuck around and ran from Janelle last week, Cody is going to do this to women he claimed to be cool with? No matter how you shake it, Cody is gaslighting Dani to be more bigoted in the game by not checking her clear racial bias. That's the truth here, okay? You claim you're an ally, but you don't check someone when they do some slick shit. So who are you really an ally of? Around 6:30, before feeds cut, Ian fills Kaser in on how there is no men's alliance. He even mentions how when the megaphone went off, he and Tyler locked eyes at the pool table, and both men saw fear in each other's eyes after hearing what was said. Feeds then cut right after this for minutes. So clearly, Cody is masking his paranoia for Tyler because he knows Tyler knows. And he's worried Tyler knows he's on the bottom because Tyler has all the information to ruin Cody and Nicole. And this is why Dani the Garden Snake must be sent to the Shadow Realm first, because the seeds she plants are designed to keep attention off of Cody and Nicole. Okay? So by Ian risking his game, being blown up by Kaser here to tell Kaser this much, it's clear to me Ian really wants Jacer fans to forgive him for bashing Janelle a week ago. Because in theory, there is nothing Kaser can tell Ian that he doesn't already know. So I think this was a play to throw fans a bone more than a play to actually save Kaser on Thursday. Kaser's pretty much dead to rights, y'all. So Ian cleared Tyler's name with Kaser, and Tyler only went for Jaser because Dani originally spread the lie that Kaser said Tyler was with Cody, but that was Dani. So Tyler believes the only way to atone for sending Janelle home is to slay the serpent known as Dani. Kaser thinks the smart play is to throw up Cody next to Nicole and force them to sell each other out, but Ian appears to have a different plan at play. I can't tell if his plan is to backdoor Cody or to throw up a man next to Cody to keep Cody on the block come Thursday. If I had to guess, Ian's plan is to throw up Cody next to Tyler. Tyler wins veto, then he throws up someone to guarantee Cody leaves. But who next to Cody guarantees he leaves? That's the toughest part. I don't see a way for Cody to go home if Ian refuses to nominate Nicole. So is Ian blowing smoke here just to get the twist? I don't know. And see, that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really think Ian would ever nominate Tyler because I think when him and Tyler locked eyes the way they did when they heard that news, I think they realized we need each other. We need each other more than any two needs each other. And see, here's my thing. If Tyler and Ian can flip, because here's the thing, Kaser told Ian during this conversation, Bay and Day, they rock with him a bit. If Bay and Day can see the truth for what it is, if Ian and Tyler can be the ones to convince them, hey, you know you were going before Dani, right? There is a chance we could have Tyler, Ian, Bay, Day, Kevin, David. So that's 6. And if right now we're going to be down to 12 people, damn, it's still hard for them, huh? It's still tough. One of those 6 would have to win the next HOH minimum for that 6 to even have any room to grow together. But Kevin is already close to Ian. Tyler's already close to Bailey. Tyler mended fences with Davon. It's possible. Davon walks in to tell them they are about to do yoga before Kaser leaves. Before Kaser leaves, Ian asks if he's good with Bay and Day moving forward. Kaser tells him he put in a good word in for him. Ian is pleased to hear that. Ian gives Kaser a symbolic farewell hug, then feeds cut for the rest of the night, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't know what happened yesterday on feeds, why they cut for so long. Some people are saying a huge fire broke out on the CBS lot. Some people are saying a COVID outbreak may have happened amongst staff. I don't know what happened. I'm only speaking on the rumors that are going around. But this is as far as my notes will take me, so I will leave you with my power rankings, ladies and gentlemen. At number 5, we have Ian Gamebot Terry. He crafts my top 5 for the first time this season solely because he refused to be Cody and Nicole's little bitch, and he started playing. When Ian plays, I don't have a problem with him. My problem was always the double standard and special treatment he was getting juxtaposed to black players. But now that we all know Ian is here to play and no longer loyal to Prime 4, he is now top 5 because his pivoting prowess could prove to become very dangerous. At number 4, we have Christmas Rousey. I think she was smart to volunteer to go up to earn more trust, even though I hated the idea behind it because it limited the idea of them backdooring someone. But she's also still being used by superior players in each direction. She needs an HOH to be taken seriously as a power player. Her willingness to flip on Nicole and Dani was perfectly timed for pivoting prowess. She's in the weakest alliance remaining, but at least she has Memphis, Kevin, Tyler, and Enzo as allies. She isn't on anyone's radar to go anytime soon, but she also hasn't done anything of significance either yet. She makes it to top 4 because Dani, Nicole, and Cody all blew 3-1 leads this week. Enzo stays at 3rd place because he eventually got his groove back after being a shadow of himself at the start of the week. He's gained more trust with Kevin and Christmas, but he's also hasn't tipped his hand with Nicole or Dani yet. He has played this week as well as he can considering all the drama that came out of it. Getting out Kaser should buy him enough time to get back into the position he had prior to winning HOH. At number 2, we have Bailey reaching the highest ranking she has achieved this entire season because I personally believe for her to bounce back after throwing those goggles in such a fashion the way she did, I think she deserves some credit here. Also, the seed she planted with Enzo about Christmas and Dani was gold. It set up Dani to go home, and it just might be the difference in her winning the game or not making jury. At number 1, Tyler has to be number 1, ladies and gentlemen. He kickstarted the smoke towards the serpent, and at the end of the day, he on his God of War Kratos shit for that reason. I gotta keep it a bean here. Y'all know me. I'm hard on Lifeguard Jesus, but it's because people keep telling me he's elite. If he follows through with the seeds he has planted this week, then I will call him elite. That is my challenge for you, Tyler. His game this week was fantastic because he was patient and waited for others to catch up to his speed. If he gets Dani taken out next week after getting Janelle out, Tyler arguably has a resume already where nobody can beat him in Final 2 if he makes it there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed the 14th rant of Big Brother 22 All-Stars entitled Call from the Wall. Hopefully, I have given you all this perfect package, this strategy guide of a feeds update, if you will, that will set you all up for Thursday's live eviction episode very soundly. Once again, I can't stress this enough. Please become a patron today. That way you can enjoy the rants I give on the weekly. If you don't know, I give my Patreons on average 4 rants a week. You guys are really only getting 1 maximum a week publicly. So just know that the people who invest in the RBR brand, I appreciate it, and I'm showing my gratitude to them on that platform, ladies and gentlemen. But I hope you all have enjoyed yourself here with me, and I hope I was able to enlighten y'all as to the truth behind what happened with this megaphone. The truth behind why these fans are butthurt because of it. The truth behind Cody clearly being rattled and clearly having a double standard strategically towards black women versus white women. I have told you all the truth regarding Ian now realizing his pivoting prowess. I have told y'all the truth left and right, okay? I haven't been biased during this rant. I've held everyone accountable who needed to be held accountable, and I've given credit to every player even if I don't rock with them if they deserved it. And that's all you could ask for, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you have enjoyed the last 2 hours of content. Please do not forget to like this video, comment underneath it, and of course share it with all the fans of Big Brother that you rock with. I'm out, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time.